questions for me. There's my Twitter handle. So yeah. How many people here have used Wireshark before? Cool. So like everyone, right? Yeah. How many people here can script? Like you can use Python or Perl or Ruby to like write your own little network hacky ad hoc stuff? Okay, cool. How many people here, if we're handed a 25 gigabyte PCAP file where something happened, could know exactly where to start and how to like fish through it to figure out what happened? Okay, so like 4 people kind of doing this thing. Sweet. So my talk's going to hopefully give you some idea on how to approach that sort of problem. Throughout the talk, I'll be referencing PCAP that is available at that link. If you'd like to follow along. What's going on? Oh, okay, cool. If you want to follow along, grab that PCAP. BayThreat asked for actionable talks. La 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 la. Good? Better? Worse? Yay! Can you hear me in the back? Thank you. Okay, so there's a PCAP at that link, and if you want to follow along, grab the PCAP. You don't have to. You can still understand what I'm going to talk about if you don't have the PCAP. Good? Yeah. Thanks. So you guys, the audience, we're going to talk about you guys for a second. Why are you here? This is sort of a agenda for my talk. I'm going to introduce a tool called Bro. It's a tool that I use for looking at big PCAPs. I'm going to discuss and present a 6-step methodology that I like to use, sort of a general methodology that I use for analyzing big PCAPs. I'm going to then walk through that PCAP that I just linked to, using the methodology and Bro. And then I'm going to wrap everything up and give you guys some time for questions. But before we do all that, I'm going to talk about me, because you're all here to see me. So what do I do? Why am I here? I look at network traffic pretty much all day long, searching for evil things, mainly related to malware. And I can make PowerPoints. So I'm here. All right, so what is Bro? Bro is a open source piece of software that was written by Vern Pagson in 1998. And I like to describe it as an open source NetWitness erector set. How many people here know what NetWitness is? How many people here have used NetWitness correctly? Okay, cool. NetWitness is like the, I don't know, Ferrari of like figuring out stuff on networks. And Bro, I guess, is like the, at least in my mind, the open source only competitor to that. So if you look at this cool diagram that I made, it sort of explains how Bro works. Similar to TCP dump, it sniffs on a network, on an interface, or reads in a PCAP. It has a core component written in C++, so it's pretty quick, that reassembles streams and raises events based on those streams. So, for example, an event could be an HTTP request, or an ICMP message, or a DNS response, something. And those events then get passed up to policy scripts, written in domain-specific language, Bro scripting, that handles these events. And you, as programmers, can write these scripts. So if you want to do something every time you see an HTTP request, or every time you see Java as a user agent, you can do so programmatically. What's cool about Bro is the team has written a lot of these really useful policy scripts already and included them with the package. So you get things out of the box like logging, really extensive logging that we're going to actually walk through a little bit later. A framework, they call them frameworks, called DPD, or Dynamic Protocol Detection. So if you've ever used Wireshark and you see HTTP going over port 6000, it doesn't know that that's HTTP. You have to go and tell it to use the HTTP dissector. Bro can figure that out for you. Easy. And there's also things called clusters, where you have, if you've got a big network link, you can spin up multiple Bro processes, cluster them together, and then split off traffic to each of the processes. And there's more. I'm not going to talk about them though. So my analysis methodology. This is sort of a roadmap for the rest of the talk. Step 0, because we always start at 0. Determining context. This is something Bro can't really do for you. This is something you as an analyst have to do. This is probably something a tool can't really ever do for you. Maybe a SIM. At least that's what vendors will tell you. But why are you looking at this PCAP? Why are you looking at this network trace file? Where did it come from? Was it recorded on a pen test? Did it come off of a span port from an internal part of your network? Why is it important? Maybe there was a snort alert in there somewhere. But was it really worth investigating? Who knows? So number one, the next step, would be to create an inventory of everything that happens in your PCAP. I like to look at things like top talkers or protocols that were used in the PCAP, as well as ports. If there were any files transferred, what do those files contain? Things like that. The next step would be to pick a single artifact from that inventory and investigate the hell out of it. Determine everything you can about that one thing. So if it's an IP address, what other IP addresses did that IP address talk to? What protocols did that IP address use? What software versions were seen running on that IP address? Was there an SSHD server? Okay, what version of SSHD was it running? Did you see some web browsing coming from that IP? Okay, what browser was it using? Like what TTLs did that IP address use? You can sort of figure out operating system based on that. The next thing would be to categorize that artifact. So is that IP address suspect? Is it normal? Do you care about it? Can you not categorize it yet? And then label it in your inventory. After that, remove it from your inventory. You've already investigated it, don't waste your time. And then finally repeat until your entire inventory is empty. It's very thorough. And if you have big PCAPs, your inventory could get pretty big. So 0. I'm going to start walking through the methodology now with that PCAP that I linked to. The PCAP came from a CTF. It was a capture the hacker CTF where some dude set up 3 honeypots and recorded traffic. And the challenge was to write really nice reports about attackers or interesting streams. If you don't know what a honeypot is, it's essentially getting kicked in the face by a monkey. If you're a hacker, you get sucked into a system. Anyway, so the PCAP came from a system that was described as a virtual machine in the Amazon cloud. So we can sort of make some assumptions about the context of this PCAP. We can assume it has a public IP address, which means we can assume that it comes with all the fun stuff a public IP address comes with. Things like port scans, web crawlers, SSH brute force, all that good fun stuff. And down there's a link to the actual CTF if you're interested. I don't know if it's up. The guy said he was going to take it down pretty soon because the competition ended. Step 1. Make an inventory. And I'm actually going to walk through some of this stuff. Hopefully you can still see this slide over here. If not, just listen to me talk. So Bro makes this really, really easy to do, create an inventory of your PCAP. All you really do is feed your PCAP to Bro. I have a VM here with Bro. Whoop. Bro already installed. Typing with one hand. So I'm going to tell Bro to read in this PCAP, ignore checksums because it complains a lot, and then use a custom policy script that I had prepared before the presentation. Pretty much just turns everything on that Bro has, says give me all the policy scripts you possibly can, and dump files to disk. So I'm going to run that. It's going to take a little bit because the PCAP's kind of big. And eventually we'll see things dumped out into this working directory, log files, things like your connection log, your HTTP log, files log, DNS, SSH log, FTP log. We're only going to focus on the first three, connection, HTTP, and files log, because I only have 20 minutes. The connection log is similar to NetFlow. So you have your connection tuple, unique connection ID, your protocol duration, bytes transferred, all that good stuff. And then you also have your HTTP log and other application level logs, where you get that same unique connection ID, the same tuple, and specific things about that protocol. So for the HTTP log, we'll see things like the method that was used, the URI that was requested, the user agent, as well as the return status code, or the post body. And then your files log will include a unique connection ID, as well as a unique file ID. So if you had a connection that transferred multiple files, you can sort of pivot around the connection. Source IP, destination IP, all that good stuff. So there's all your logs. There's your inventory right there. The next step would be to investigate something. So again, because I only have 20 minutes and I've pre-canned everything for you guys, we're going to look at a connection that was in the HTTP log. Can you guys see that? So here we have timestamps. Next field is like unique connection IDs, source port, destination port, all that good stuff. And I'm going to look for a URI that contains Ubuntu. There you can see. Does anyone recognize what that is? Or could be? Have a guess. That URI? No? It's to a subdomain of ubuntu.com, so it looks pretty legit, but who knows, right? Could be evil. What I'm going to do is take the unique connection ID from that connection and pivot into the files log. So if we look at the files log and search for that unique connection ID, you can see there's a handful of files that were transferred in that connection. Looks like some XML, some HTML, PGP, SIGs, some bzip files. Let's see, so there's the connection ID, bzip file. Let's grab the file ID. And then let's change to the files directory that I told Bro with that BayThreat.bro policy script. I told it to dump files to disk in this directory. So it's a bzip file. Bro, I told it to append the protocol that the file came from. And then if I pipe that to less, you can see the file's contents. Does anyone recognize what that is? What's the first word up there? Package, right? It's a package update. So my guess would be that the dude running this contest saw some attack traffic and decided, oh, I'm going to inflate this PCAP by doing a package update. Make a little smoke screen for the people trying to compete in this competition. So that's legit. Let's look at something that's not legit. Again, I'm going to go to the HTTP log because I have everything canned, 20 minutes. If you want to see more stuff, you should dig through the PCAP yourself or come find me after the talk. What about this URI? Does that look legit? Woot woot at Black Hat Romanian anti-sec, smiley face. That's totally legit, right? I think if my mom saw that, she would know something's goofy. My mom's not very technical. And just because I know the log fields pretty well, it uses this user agent, ZMEU, also pretty suspect. So what I'm going to do is grab the source IP that made that request, and using this cool tool that Bro comes with called BroCut, which is similar to awk, but for Bro logs. So you can name fields and search for them in Bro logs. I'm going to ask it for URIs as well as, source IP, which it gives this funny name. It's not just source IP, but whatever. And I'm going to tell it to look in the HTTP log. From there, I will grep. I know, watching me type up here is really fun, right? For that IP address, the source IP address. You can see all the URIs that IP address requested. So here's your woot woot. And it also looks like it was looking for some PHP myadmin config files. So definitely not legit. All right, so I did all that. Categorize. The first thing, URIs to ubuntu.com subdomains. Legit, cool, we've classified it, done. Next. The ZMEU user agent, not so legit, looking for PHP myadmin config files available to the internet. We also see things in that HTTP log if you're like running those commands and looking through the logs for Morpheus scanner, as well as some other suspect URIs. This is like definitely a crafted URI, right? You'll never see a domain in a URI. That's just ridiculous. The next step in the methodology would be to filter these things. And I think this is where Bro really shines, because it's programmable. In the policy scripts, you can write some pseudocode similar to this that says, upon an HTTP request, if Ubuntu, the pattern Ubuntu is in the URI, return from this event. Don't do anything. I don't care. Otherwise, log this HTTP event. So if we were to use a script like this and fed it to Bro and reran that PCAP, our logs would be smaller and our inventory would be smaller. And eventually, we could keep doing this and keep writing these little scripts until our inventory is completely done and we have a complete understanding of everything that happened in the PCAP. And then we repeat it. Here's some things that I found. I found a legit SSH session, and then I found some anonymous FTP logins from that same IP address, so I'm assuming they're legit, and a bunch of DNS PTR queries. Does anyone know why? Anyone have a guess? It's okay. It has to do with the SSH brute forcing. Every time SSHD someone logs in, it issues a PTR query. It says, like, who's logging into me right now? So anyway, there was also some FTP brute forcing and, like you saw, HTTP scanning. There's some other stuff in there too. What's really cool, actually, is that if you turn on all of the policy scripts Bro comes with, it'll tell you that there is SSH brute forcing and FTP brute forcing. It'll give you like a little notice and say, hey, 10. Whatever was FTP brute forcing. Check it out. So this competition was actually really easy. It's kind of like 2 commands. So to wrap everything up, I presented a methodology for analyzing large PCAPs. I introduced you guys to Bro, which is a tool for analyzing PCAPs. And then we applied Bro to an actual PCAP. There's 3 ways you can contact me. Slides should be up on this site. Thanks, BayThreat, and thank you guys. Are there any questions?
I see you were using like all of these console tools and grep and more slash search for substring. What do you do when there's 100 gigabytes of data, terabytes of data, and grepping through these logs takes a week?
Good question. You don't use grep. Use something else. Use something that can handle it. Toss it into like Logstash or Elasticsearch. There's a guy on the Bro team that has something called Brownian that will actually take bro logs and dump them straight to Elasticsearch, and you can do full text search on them. I'm not like a database pro, but I'm assuming there's some people here that could figure out how to do that.
What do you think about like from the Amazon cloud, where you think that most of them are legit, but you know?
You just don't know.
Yeah.
You have to make an educated guess, and that's sort of where context comes in. Like, what all do I know about this IP address? It's tough to say. What do other people know about the IP address? Pull on your resources, right? Yeah. It depends on the situation, really. I don't have a perfect answer for you, sorry.
Use Bro by itself, or do you use it in combination with other tools? Because mostly I've recently been using Bro with Security Onion, and I find the whole packaging of tools on the same underlying contact much better than Bro by itself.
I completely agree. I definitely think Security Onion is a great tool, and I think it combines a lot of good things together. Me personally, I don't use everything in Security Onion. And like, you can, that's great, but I'm a little more simplistic. I just like straight Debian, give me Bro, and I'm off to the races. It's a matter of preference, really. Anybody else? Yeah.
Do you use Bro after another indicator, or do you just look at the weird.log?
Weird.log is cool, because, yeah, weird.log is like, hey, I saw some, here, I'll show you guys. Weird.log contains things that's what? Weird, right? So anything Bro team thinks is weird in a PCAP, it'll just dump weird.log. It's got things like bad HTTP requests. So that http://www.aol.com, that's a bad HTTP request. You shouldn't have that in a URI, and Bro will tell you about it. There's a lot of cool stuff that Bro does by default. You just have to turn it on. So yeah, that's definitely something to look at, and it's something I use all the time. 20 minutes. There's only so much. Like, find me afterwards, and I'll talk your ear off about Bro. Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Bro is just like TCP dump. You can run it on a live interface. You can run it on a PCAP. I don't think it takes like PCAP NG. It has to be like the straight old school PCAP format. But yeah, you can run it on a network. Yeah, there's I think they're working on a SQLite writer. They've got an Elasticsearch writer. They've got plain text. And it's, I mean, you can see the plain text. Like, it's tab separated, so you can feed it to whatever SIM or whatever log management or database you want to feed it to. I've got a gist up on GitHub that takes the DNS and the con logs and pumps it to Postgres, some conversion stuff for you. So yeah, doable. Yeah.
So you could tell it log things that are interesting, throw away things that are not interesting. Would you be able to have it dynamically adjust threshold for what's interesting?
Depends on how you implement it. But yeah, do you have a specific example that?
Yeah, well, if you're under attack
Mm-hmm.
and you're in the middle of a major, botnet DOS attack, you probably want to stop logging boring old code scans and stuff like
Sure. I don't know off the top of my head, but I imagine you could do something that says, like, if you see threshold hitting a certain limit, yeah. I imagine you could do something like that. I'd have to work through it in my head a little bit, but it sounds doable. Cool. Thanks, guys.